Buongiorno, buonasera, benvenuti amici, welcome my friends. My name is Vincenzo and welcome to my channel, and the channel is Fountain Pen Therapy. Got another recap for you folks. As usual, I'm starting the recording of this video Friday morning. It is now 4:30 a.m. Got to catch up because I've got a golf game in a few hours, and then I got to do some work and finish off my week that way, and then maybe fine-tune things on the weekend so that we can publish this weekly recap. I got to tell you, things are coming in. I've been using Taobao these days, and I'm looking forward to receiving a bunch of pens that I want to share with you. They're not mainstream. We're not getting anything from Mahjong. Hongdian is in question. People are asking whether or not they still exist, or if everything has gone to Asvine. We're not getting anything from Asvine. Jinao keeps producing and offering the same model pens with different colors. There's not, Wing Sung has not come up with anything either. So there's not much out there. But I noticed that on Taobao, there are other products and that I want to visit with you, both in market news and in some of the pens that I received and I will be receiving over the next several weeks, and that I'm going to share with you. Okay, that's in terms of Chinese pens. I've also got a beautiful product, a beautiful pen. Actually, I got two from Lotus. I'm going to be showing you a glimpse of one of them during this recap, and maybe doing an independent review of that pen later this week. But just an absolutely gorgeous writing instrument. I've got some paper to discuss with you, and I've got some Natami inks that have come in. I've got 6 of them. I'm going to show you 3 of them in this recap. So without any further ado, Fountain Pen Therapy presents its weekly recap for May the 24th, 2026. Okay, so we're back with first segment, market news. Let's check out what's out there. I'm struggling to find stuff for you guys. Very slow, but let's go to my computer, and we'll show you what we got. Here we go. First thing, Gravitas has just come out with a new version of its vac filler. There it is in all its glory. Looks really nice. I'm going to recommend to you a video that goes with this later on in the recap, which is a video from PenVenture that goes into a very detailed review of this new version of the vac. It's the vac 2.0. And all the new stuff that's comes with it, all the improvements to its original vac filler, along with some interesting news about that nib. The news about the nib makes me a little bit excited in the sense that we're not dealing with a, Yowo refurbished or redone nib, or a Bach or a Schmidt. There appears to be some very in-house work done Now, whether it's done in-house or outside, but there's been some thought in that new nib, and that kind of gets me going a little bit. So I may take the dive for that. It's 195 euros, which in Canadian roughly translates to about $300. It's not a priority, but it's something that I'm looking at. What else have I got for you? Let's go to AliExpress. AliExpress has got, I noticed, Hongdian pens, but with these flex nibs that are being advertised, or a blade. I'm not sure what this flex nib is all about. It is described as the new version Hongdian N8S. I've got the green and this kind of peacock and the maple leaf. I don't have the white feather nor the black. I may want to get one of them, probably the black, and test out what this flex nib is. But from what I see in the pictures, it's actually offering that pen with the Mahjong flex nib, which I find very interesting. Who's doing that? Is it the store that's selling that pen? Or is there some kind of cooperation between whoever is taking care of Hongdian these days? Very curious, very curious. You know, Chinese market is always a mystery. The brands are mysteries, the ownership is mystery, or difficult to figure out. But in any event, I thought I'd mention that to you. And because of the flex nib, and now how much more does it cost? Yeah, significant premium there. It goes from 37. If you put in a blade, it's 46. If you put in a regular Hongdian nib, it's 37. And if you put in that Mahjong flex nib, it's 52. But I thought I'd mention that. Speaking of which, there's this Balloy. I know I've spoken about it. Folks, let's face it, it's very slow. So maybe some of these newcomers we're going to have to start taking a look at. There it is. I think a good-looking, very modern-looking titanium fountain pen. The price is a little bit concerned to me at a $189 Canadian. And with the long knife, it's even more expensive. But it's there, and it's all aluminum apparently. And I thought, and it's huge. Thought I'd mention it. Next, what have I got? Yeah, of course, you've got my my number one Chinese pen that I declared last week in my video, but except in what I believe is going to be a steel nib. But there you have it. To what extent this pen is similar to or identical to the gold nib version, we shall see. I've ordered it, and we'll do a detailed comparison when I get it. But I thought I'd mention that. And you can see that it comes with a variety of nibs here, which is good news. Next. Speaking of nibs, now I see that Jinhao, the 9016, is being offered with that Mahjong flex nib as well. So there you have it. So you can see there's a crossover there with this flex nib is causing quite a bit of stir. But if you thinking about whether or not you can put that flex nib in your 9016, well, this particular vendor does it for you. At $31.58, you can get the 9016 with that flex nib. Next. No, that's it, I think. Okay. Next thing I wanted to mention is that, you know, I'm always on the lookout for new places to surf, if you will, and buy. And I've discovered, some of you may know this already, and I didn't. One viewer mentioned Superbuy, in just casually in his comment, or her comment. Superbuy, must mention. I said, Superbuy? I've never heard of Superbuy. So I checked it out, and Superbuy, there you have it. It's a Chinese, it kind of amalgamates different sources. And I've registered. It's pretty friendly in the sense that, unlike Taobao, everything is translated for you. And I just wanted to show you what I bought. Now, there's a lot of the regular stuff, regular Chinese pens that maybe don't interest us, a little bit like Temu. But there are, if you keep going, you might find some interesting stuff. For example, I found this Crena Spark paper, and you know I'm into Crena these days. It's a 216-page B7 at $6.30 US. Now you got to be careful because they add on shipping, and I don't know what they do. I think they consolidate the shipments, or it goes from one place to another, and it looks like they keep tagging $1.50 here, $1.50 there, $2, and there's some mystery as to whether or not I'm going to be tagged an additional charge once it gets to the main factory or the warehouse and then comes to me. I will let you guys know, but so far so good. At $6.30, a Crena notebook for 216 pages. That's a real deal. The same thing goes for this Tomo River Batch 1 paper, A5, and I believe it has how many pages? Well, that died. Does it tell me how many pages? It's a fairly big notebook there for $15. What did I pay for it? $19 US. So that's a good thing. And I was looking for my 628 Wing Sung, and I could not find here it is. Actually, it doesn't show here, but what I ended up ordering is a 628 with a silver finish. I think it shows here. So is that the 628? I apologize here. I'm struggling to find what I ordered. It doesn't appear to be available anymore, but I've ordered the 628 so I can get the 628, 629, 630, and the 930 all in that ivory finish. For some of you may be interested. So so that's what I ended up ordering, and it was $13 US, which compared to the prices I have on AliExpress appear, at least at first sight, to be advantageous. Let me, guys, anybody using SuperBuy, let me know if I'm barking up the wrong tree. But there you have it, in terms of what I see in you in the marketplace and what I'm looking at these days in terms of interest. Got to find some other ways. And you'll see I've ordered a bunch of pens that don't have, most of them from Taobao, that don't have the regular Asvine, Jinhao, Hongdian, Mahjong, Wing Sung, Banner, Kagalu, but appear to have a different banner or a different brand name. From the photos, they look interesting. The nibs look interesting. So I've ordered a bunch at very reasonable prices, and we'll get to review them right here on this channel. And maybe we can find some alternatives given how slow the market is. Because let me tell you, in terms of any other brands, except for very expensive Italian pens, very expensive Japanese pens, you got your Eastbrook that comes out with a product once in a while that don't interest me at all. You got Bennu, you got, but other than that, there's not much punch out there. There's that VAC 2.0 from Gravitas. So we'll be looking at that a little more carefully in the coming days and weeks. There you have it. Stay tuned for my next segment. We'll be right back. Okay, so we're back. Let's see what's new in the fountain pen therapy. Studios will begin with paper. Well, my challenge to find an alternative to Tomo River is slowly but surely coming to an end. And one of the main challengers, I have to tell you, is going to be Crena paper that I've discovered. And to that degree, I realized that through some of the viewers In fact, there was one viewer who sent me a video, a YouTube video, and that viewer knows who he is, comparing different Crena papers, etc. And in particular, he shows in his video one particular product that I'd like to share with you. I had already ordered it, but I didn't realize how useful this could be in terms of aiding and assisting in my challenge. So let's go to my overhead camera right away. This is the product. Now, let me just, I just wanted a close-up of this. What this is essentially a sampler, paper sampler that I purchased on Taobao. It wasn't very expensive, and it got consolidated with several other products that I ordered. It is what they call a paper mix, maybe a bad translation, but it is a sampler. And in that sampler, first of all, there's an index, all kinds of measurements giving you useful information and measurements of paper. But here are and I don't know if you could see this, but let's close up. So there's several papers on this list that are in fact Crena, but there's Crena Spark paper. From what I understand, there's also Crena Starbow paper right here, or Star Rainbow paper that I've seen. In fact, the Crena notebook, and I bought several of these, this one here that I've been using to do some of my sampling, which I find really, really interesting, just because it comes in a format that I enjoy. I believe is the Crena Starbow paper. So what I thought I'd do is that I want to compare the Spark paper to the Starbow paper. There may be a third one in there that I want. I think it's Snowfall Lights. That's a little thicker. That is also Crena. So what we're going to do, so there's not much here to show you other than, there's samples. We're going to tear off a couple of pages, and we're going to do some ink swatching with those 2 or 3 papers. And we'll see, is there a remarkable difference? And we'll see where that takes us. So that's a little sampler that you may want to order on Taobao. I put all the links in the descriptions so that you can make up your own mind. And there's several other paper in there as well. And one of the things I've discovered on Taobao is all these different types of Chinese papers, which I think I'm going to dive into eventually. But these two, this Crena, is what interests me right now so that I can complete my challenge. So that's the paper I have for you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some inks that I've received, set it all up, and then we'll do the ink swatching and see what conclusions we can draw from that. We'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back. This is the Crena. Actually, there's another one called Crena Stardust, but that's not the one I wanted to test. The one I wanted to test is Spark paper. Here it is. Notice there's about 3 or 4 different Crena. The reason why I'm testing these two is because I've actually seen them used in notebooks. There's no point in having all these Crena loose sheets. I prefer that they be in notebook form. So these are the 2 I'm going to test. However, there are 2 additional ones. This is a 50 GSM. I had an A6 size paper notebook that I introduced in the channel some time ago in one of my recaps, and this is the Starbow. Now, I'm assuming that this is the Star Rainbow 52 GSM that are used in that diary I just showed you, but there's no indication that it's actually Crena on the sample introduction sheet. So we shall see. But I noticed there are 2 other Crenas in that sampler. There's a Crena Stardust at 55 GSM and a Crena Snowfall Lights at 68 GSM. Maybe, and I'll probably do this separately. And in order to really test this paper, I've got to tell you, I did already test these Natami ones, just because I wanted to see whether or not there are inks that could kind of generate some interest on this paper. And I find that they are, although nice inks, and I'll show you the sampling in a minute, they don't have any punch to them, and I'm just concerned that I will not get a proper testing of these papers in that regard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with the 3 Iroshizuku inks, and we'll go with Konpeki first. Yeah. The other inks were kind of a little watery, the Natami. I'll show you that in a few minutes. I can tell right away there's a difference the way the ink kind of goes down on the spark paper. And maybe we should do some writing. So this is Konpeki. A little more resistance on the spark paper, I find. Okay, so let me just cap that. The next is Yamaburo. And these are kind of my go-to inks as well these days, so it goes down nice and smooth. Not much resistance on the paper. Much more resistance on this paper. Kind of a, it's not a rough resistance, but kind of a muddy, clayish, like I'm struggling. Let's just do, clean that up. Some writing with the Yamaburo. I think I dipped it too much. Because in my challenge, what I've realized is that there may be some very interesting paper that rivals, but if on rivals Toma River number 7 machine, but if I can't buy those, if I can't buy the proper format, in other words, if there's no notebooks available, then that may weigh into my decision, because I don't want to leave myself with just a bunch of loose sheets that are not as readily available. This is Shin Ryoku. So again, I'm going with the more traditional shades here. Yeah, you could see that there's some resistance on the spark paper, which is surprising because it seems like it's going down on a thick paper, but it's not, because it's just a 50 GSM. So this is the Shin Ryoku. How do I spell that? Ryoku, I think. Yeah. Shin. Here we go. So we're going to let these dry, and we'll come back and try to see if we can draw any conclusions as to whether, at least based on this very limited experiment, whether or not there are any differences in these two papers. So we'll be right back. Okay, so we're back with the inks. First of all, the inks come in a little box like this. They're Natami, right? Ethereal Hues, Not sure what that means. Colors are indicated on the back in a label. So there you have it. That's that. So let's open them up. I've got a blue, what appears to be a red, and what appears to be a green for you. Just, go-to colors, at least for me anyway. Next week maybe we'll show you the other three. The other three, there's a golden yellow, another lighter shade of blue, and another shade of green. This is the bottle. It comes with this little stand. I'm not sure what purpose that serves, frankly, other than being decorative, because the bottle in and of itself is fairly stable. So it's not as if you need this little stand to stabilize it. On the contrary, I find that it just wiggles in there. But there you have it. Attractive bottle. Attractive presentation. I guess you can, if you want to, leave it on your desk. It's certainly pretty. Okay, so those are the inks. Let's just open up the other boxes. Now, some of you have asked me whether or not I would get these inks, and some of you have actually ordered them. We shall see what these inks can bring to us. Now, when you have the bottle, there's no indication, or at least you think there's no indication of what ink is in there until it's right there. The label's at the end. So you can see that those are going to be the colors that we're going to be dealing with in the swatching exercise. So those are the inks. Actually, I've decided that while those inks are drying up, and by the way, I sampled all 4 papers, so we'll take a look at that in a second. I thought I'd show you, this is the Crena, which I believe is the Star Rainbow version of the paper. Crena with this diary, again, available on Taobao, but I think I saw this as well on AliExpress. These are you'll forgive this swatch here because I realized I hadn't washed out properly the swatching folded pen, so you can cross that out. But you can see that this blue, and unfortunately the names are in, it's in Chinese, so I can't really figure out what name they give this, but this kind of darker blue, this is what I'm getting on this Crena paper. So they're not exciting inks, that's for sure. A little watery, I find, and probably not worth. There's much better inks out there, folks. I'm not happy with them. So yes, they have this nice base, but I'm not sure what purpose that serves. The green is interesting. Gives me a lot of shading and some sheen, but I remember when it came down, it was very, very watery. I was forced to just go over it again just to give it some substance, and that probably explains the 3 blobs there. The blue does have some shading, a little bit of sheen there, but not exciting. The red, kind of blah, at the end of the day. So I'm not sure that I'm prepared to recommend these inks to you. And I forget what price they were going for, but they weren't cheap. Or maybe they were. I'll put the price up on the screen. But so far, I am not overly impressed by the inks. What I'll do is, I think while we're at it, is we'll ink up the other 3 and show them to you so that we can make up our minds right away. And maybe I'll put them all on the same page here. Okay, so I will be right back. Actually, I'm back. I wanted to show you, you see what I mean? It kind of comes down very watery in my view. Let's do this other one. Oh, that's hard to open. There's no point in, if I'm not going to enjoy these inks. This is a kind of a darker green. Let's see what this gives. Yeah. Again, maybe they're more of a shading. They're not chromatic. And some people enjoy this, by the way. Some people like this lighter shading inks. I just find them, well, that was hard. they lack intensity, and just a little too much water in here in my view. But this is the yellow gold. You see what I mean? Folks, I'm not impressed. This green looks to be a little bit better than what I originally thought. But again, let us let them all dry up, and we'll see what the result is at the end. But so far, I'm not impressed, and I certainly not prepared to recommend them. So here they are. We'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back. First of all, let's take a look at the Crena paper with the testing. I like the way the Iroshizuku inks kind of pop very nicely. I think they're all very similar, folks. I got to tell you, the Crena Snowfall Lights found a little more coated than the rest. The Stardust, along with the Star Bow, little less coated, and the Spark paper is the roughest of them all. What do they look like on the other side? Well, not bad, I find. In terms of ghosting, you're going to get, the big blotches because of these are very thin paper here. But in terms of ghosting, they're very similar, and yet some are thinner than others. Now, this one's going to cause a little bit of a mess because the Yamaburo is not quite dry, but you'll forgive me for that. You see, there's some penetration there on the Yamaburo. This is kind of Tomo River-ish. Yeah, this is the type of thing you get anyway. This is even less. And don't forget that this one, I believe, is 55 GSM. This one, which is 68 GSM. So the thickest is the one that gets a little bit of breathe-through. So sometimes thickness doesn't guarantee anything. This one here is 52 GSM. I find this one, the one in that Crena notebook, to be the one that I would prefer, frankly. I don't like the Spark paper because of the resistance in the writing. There's not an easy flow. But Starbow, I think, is the one that I would go with. A little bit less sheen on the green. These two bring out the sheen a little more than this one, but sometimes that's a question of your swatching. You can't totally rely on that. So there you have it. There's a comparison. Now, again, I repeat, I found a notebook for Spark paper, and my diary is this, I believe, is this Starbow, the Crena diary book that I just showed you. I've not found any notebooks with these two papers. So to the extent that they may even be interesting, if I can't buy, a product and I'm stuck with loose sheets, I'm not interested at the end of the day. Not for the challenge anyway. So there you have it. A bunch of swatching, a little bit different this week. Here, if we go back to the swatching of the Natami inks, I'm not impressed, folks. This yellow does get better as it dries. There's a little bit of sheen there. The dark blue, frankly, I'm not sure I see a difference between these two at the end of the day. This one's a darker green. This may be interesting, but these inks are just watered down, in my opinion, and I would not recommend them. I'm going to continue to test with them. I think I may even ink a couple of pens, and we'll see how they write, because sometimes, inking a fountain pen will give you a different result. But so far, folks, I can't recommend them. So I think we've done enough swatching for this recap. Stay tuned. I'll show you some of the pens that I've received in the pen. I'll be right back. Okay, so we're back with the pen haul. Now, you have before you 3 pens here. only one of them really formed part of what I received during the week. But I'll show you in a minute the interesting part about these two. This is the one I ordered. I did have the P138 in this silver finish, and I always was very much intrigued by the fine nib on this pen. This is just a standard Moonman, by the way. It's not anything number 6, nothing special. And what I thought I'd do is I always was intrigued by the black version, and I said, you know what? I'm going to order the black version. I like to have it in my collection, but at the same time, it was being offered with the flex nib. So that's what I did. I ordered it with the flex nib. That way, I have, I can enjoy this pen even more. There you have it. And this is the other flex nib that I had. Of course, here you have it. So, and I wanted to compare them just to see if there's some consistency. Now, there's been some suggestion. I believe I saw one reviewer review the silver version of that flex nib and compare it to the gold. I will leave that as part of the YouTube reviews that I would recommend. So this will be the pen haul. And this is the Madron P138 black flex you see the little sparks there? I don't know if you saw it. I find that this flex nib is a little scratchy and bounce, but it just spits back at you, so to speak. Let me just compare it to this one. Yeah. I find... No, it's not Madron. It's... I forget what it... I think this is the T5. I forget. But I find that this flex nib is a little stiffer. Can you see the difference between the two? And maybe we should just... a little more controlled. These are my earlier version, whereas this one it just doesn't, it feels like it's sprung. Can you see how more flexy it is? It's definitely more springy. When I compare it to this one, which is much stiffer. So maybe a little bit of a consistency issue here. Oh, I mean, this thing is noodle-like, almost like Magna Carta. I may want to order the silver one just to see, but so there may be some differences, folks. Have you noticed? If you have any differences in your Madron flex nibs, I'm not sure which experience is the best. Sometimes you want a more controlled flex, and it's not really a flex, it becomes kind of a semi-flex bouncy nib. And other times you just want to have some fun with, especially if you like the calligraphy. So there you have it. That's the first pen I wanted to share with you. The second one I wanted to share with you is, and these are one of the pens that I talked about in my introduction, where, you don't, I'm not sure that this is available on AliExpress, frankly, but, I bought it at on Taobao, and here's the pen. It came in just bubble wrap. Now, this, for Hongdian fans, this should look familiar. Let me compare it to another pen. And it's this one here from Hongdian. The Hongdian one is much chunkier, okay, but kind of a similar layout, What I like about this one, first of all, very nice. And, I think I paid this, I don't know, $10, $15. And on the on the middle ring here, you have Yong Shen. And my understanding is that Yong Shen is just a more Chinese version of Wing Sung. And it may be kind of their cheaper pen or cheaper priced pens. But I like the finial. I like the look. It is a, wait a minute, is this, no, it's a snap-on. There you have it. Got the nice black coated nib, and we'll write with that in a few minutes. It does have a little bit of texture on the grip, so that it's not slippery. It's not a big pen. It's a little on the thinnish side. Does it post? Yes, it does. Is it a little back-weighted? Perhaps, just a bit, tiny bit, but it's not that heavy at the end of the day, so it's very, very comfortable. And we'll do some writing with it. And of course, I think I can compare it to this Hongdian. Now, I think that if we had put Hongdian on this, called it the Hongdian, I don't know, 305, we'd all jump on it. But because it's kind of a no-name Taobao $10 pen, we kind of ignore it. So I've ordered a bunch of pens that way, just to show you that there may be alternatives. Now, not all of you will like this kind of metalish look, but I thought it was interesting. Now, it is a cartridge converter. So there you have it. This is a standard converter, nothing fancy. I did put one of the Natami inks in here. So why don't we do some writing with it? With and without posting. So this is it is a number 5 size nib, by the way. Now, it doesn't have a number. I don't think anyway. Is there a number on this? No. Yeah, here's the website description of it. It's Muchi Pin, but Muchi Pin probably refers to the store. There's not much else. It comes in this red. It came also in blue, and I ordered the blue version. Now, I've seen this on AliExpress. Here you see that the nib is a different color. I've seen it on AliExpress, but with a kind of a hooded nib or something to that effect. And I don't like hooded nibs, or I prefer to have a kind of, or this kind of nib. I don't like those nibs either. The ones that are kind of that little pointed up. I just don't enjoy those nibs. So, but here it's 21 yen. 21, I think, is like $10 Canadian. So, I think worth it. So that's Wing Sung, and the number is unknown. The pen is very smooth, or the nib is. No feedback, as you can see. Now, the ink doesn't do justice to this pen. Again, this is the one of the Natami inks. It's kind of very, very dry, looking ink, which I personally don't enjoy. Now, they're watery in consistency in terms of watered down. The intensity of the ink is watered down. But as you can see, it dries up fairly quickly. Now, some of you might like this kind of a grayish. There you go. It's maybe not as dry as I thought. It just comes down with very, very light features. And I know that several of you might actually like this. But in terms of the pen itself, it's very comfortable. Let me just test it posted. I mean, that nib is just fabulous. Now, will it, dry up on me? We shall see. I'll revisit this pen. But I thought I'd mention that I ordered this pen just to demonstrate to you that there may be alternatives out there that might please your eye and that don't cost a lot. And again, also, Taobao should be an alternative for you guys. Now, when I have the time, I will try to, open another account. So I start fresh so I can show you how it's done. I just landed. I was lucky. I registered. I know some of you are having problems. It may not even be available in some in your area for some reason. Some of you are stuck at the registration stage. The site doesn't translate well. And look, now we've got AliExpress. We got Temu. I didn't check whether or not this was available on Temu. I showed you in the market news this site that I discovered that I should have known, but I didn't know about till the viewer mentioned it. Superbuy, forever it's worth. Superbuy is a lot friendlier, I find, in terms of language. Taobao is a struggle, and even when you order a pen, they ask you for all kinds of details, and in terms of trying to figure out the choice that you're making. You get used to it eventually, but I think it's an alternative. So there you have another pen that I thought I mentioned to you guys, and that came in. Now there's several others, so I'm going to keep them for another day. Otherwise, I'll just run out of things to do and say. So far, these are the two that I've purchased for this week. Now I really want to show you, and I'm very pleased to show you that Lotus pen that I received, which I think is an absolute fabulous writing instrument. Sneak peek. Right, we'll be right back. Okay, so here is one of the two pens that I received that were delivered to me this week. We'll show you the other one next week. This is the one that I really, really am very pleased about. So the packaging is just gorgeous. Take a look at this. Very nice. Wooden box, handcrafted in India, Lotus. Open up the little latch, and when you open it up, look what's in there. Very nice. First of all, you get this beautiful leather pouch. Very nice. With the Lotus, really nice touch. You get a cloth to kind of, clean up the pen. Is there anything underneath here? No, there isn't. So we will take the box, put that aside for now. Actually, let's put that back in. Very nice pouch, I gotta tell you. And here's the pen. Take a look at this, folks. This is absolutely, and you'll see in a minute the real heart of this pen and why I think it's fabulous. Very original design. I don't believe I have a pen that looks like this. There's some resemblance to Pilot 95ES or E95S in terms of very short barrel and a longer cap, but it's got the Lotus. We're going to review this pen in detail, but let me just open it up for you to see the surprise that's in there. You ready, folks? Take a look at that. I am really looking forward to testing this pen and see what gives. That nib looks Titanish, and in fact the name of the pen is the Lotus Titan. So there you have it. We'll be reviewing it maybe even this week, and we'll take a closer look at this pen. But so far I am very pleased with adding this to my collection. So I won't do a writing sample, folks. This is just a sneak peek. But there she is, the Lotus Titan. Looking forward to it. We'll be right back. Okay, so we're back with Pens Revisited. And first writing instrument I'd like to revisit with you guys is this pencil, mechanical pencil by with the brand Spoke. And I've always spoken about how some of these mechanical pencils are so attractive, and that I wished that they would make fountain pens that looked like this, or a facsimile anyway. And then a viewer wrote to me, have you ever heard of Spoke pencils? And I said, sure. And I remember introducing this pen in a recap sometime, this pencil, before. And he said, well, you know, they have fountain pens. I had purchased this pencil on, I forget which site, but it wasn't the Spoke site. And I did go visit that site because of the viewer. And let me tell you, they got some beautiful titanium, aluminum pens that kind of resemble this sort of a design, modern, with these colors. And I've ordered a fountain pen from Spoke. We should be receiving it soon. So to that viewer, thank you very much for the tip. The pen is coming, and we'll share it with you as soon as it comes in. So there you have it. So that's one of the brands I wanted to revisit with you. Secondly, I wanted to let you know how my Pelican Epoch is doing. It's doing quite fine, actually. Remember, I had a little bit of an issue. I still think that I can probably open up those tines a little more, but I don't want to ruin that nib. So far, no complaints, really. You see a little bit of skipping there, but that's because the paper. By the way, do you see how those inks went right through the paper, and it's kind of ruined 6-7 sheets here. You can feel they had to dry up. Pelican Epoch, very smooth. Some skipping, but you see, skip there again. But skip there again. So it's not perfect, but I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there eventually. I did want to show you again, just to see where my Lamy is, and whether the modifications I made to it are still paying off. I mean, what a difference. I mean, there is still a little bit, as you can see, when I go down, but much better than it was. It's right. It's in that subtle. See, when too quick. No matter how I have to kind of find a better sweet spot. But if I press on it, I mean, now I can use this pen. It's smooth, it's wet, it's not bad. It's not bad after all. I may not be a Lamy 2000 hater after all. There we go. Now, what else I wanted to revisit with you? Well, I'm going to revisit a bunch of pens that all come from the video I put up last week. I invite you to see it if you haven't. Top 10 Chinese pens. What I did is I took my entire Chinese pen collection, save and except some of the cheaper, really cheap, earlier versions of Chinese pens that I have in a box somewhere, but there's about roughly 200 pens. From that, I showed you 40 contenders, and from the 40 contenders, I had to whittle it down to my top 10. And, you know, some of you disagreed, which is a lot of fun, and that was the purpose of the video. I know I got a lot of comments about my 930, my Pope pen, or generally speaking, the 930 and this huge nib, where a lot of you felt that they couldn't write with this pen. Now, I understand that this pen, for long writing sessions, may not, it may be uncomfortable for some of you, but it isn't for me because I like girthy pens. But I gotta tell you, I'm sorry, but this nib, if nothing else, is a real toy. And it's a real joy. It gives me therapy. It gives me a very different writing experience. Now, is it an everyday go-to pen where you can write pages and pages of journaling? And maybe not for all. Certainly is for me. But how can you say no to that? So there you go. It's some controversy, but that's okay. I like that. The other thing I wanted to revisit, you guys, is a lot of you felt a little bit surprised that neither one of these kind of made my top 10. There's a couple of reasons for it. First of all, I'm not a huge, I wouldn't say fan, but a huge user of pocket pens. So, when I have to choose my top 10, they don't make my list, unfortunately, because I just don't find myself using these pens. Let's see if they write. This is the, okay, this one has no ink. Let me see if the other one does. They're beautiful writing instruments, and I can't really make up my mind. I mean, I've gone for, if I had to choose either one of them, I'd go for titanium, but I like the weight of the brass one. Does it write? Let me just see. Yes. Hongdian M2 TI or brass. Yes, this is a nice little pocket pen. I'm at a loss to find one that I enjoy more. I know the Kaweco fans out there might say, are you kidding me? I think this is a much, much, much nicer pen than the Kaweco. I have the Kaweco, I have Kaweco plastic, I have Kaweco sport, brass, etc., and I never use them. This one, at least, once in a while, it attracts my fountain pen therapy brain. So yes, difficult to put it aside. One of my favorite pens, but I just didn't make my top 10. Speaking of pens that did not make my top 10, is this one. I felt really bad that this one didn't. This little guy is, to me, such a nice pen. By the way, it's inspired there's one viewer who agrees with me, and he knows who he is. He loves this pen as well. and he always teases me about Italian pens. Well, this pen is inspired by the Ancora, vintage Ancora Italian pens, beautiful pens. Have very, very similar design, if not almost identical. And this one has, does it have a flex nib? Yes, it does. So this is the Majon C5. And again, I'm looking at this flex nib, and it doesn't flex as much as that new nib I just got that I showed you earlier. Kind of an in-between. So I noticed that there may be a difference from one nib to another in any event. And the best feature of this pen, in my view, is this crystal clear resin. It's just fabulous. The push button or the push mechanism to fill the pen. Look how much ink you get in there. One of the best mechanisms that I enjoy. So, yeah, my C5 didn't make it. Neither did my P139. And again, easily could have made it. Just a beautiful Hemingway Mont Blanc imitation with that gorgeous number 8. Look at this. I haven't written with this pen in weeks. Majon P139. This is the white. The cap's moving. I'm going to remove it. With the number 8. Look how juicy the nib is. It just got juicier over time. This medium nib is now writing like a broad, which is right up my alley, I got to tell you. Yes, so the P139 didn't make it, folks. Another pen that attracted some comment, I have let me just finish here, is my C80. I think this is probably, in terms of price, an alternative, and would have made my top 10 if price was a consideration. Again, I haven't written with this pen in ages. Asvine C80. This is in the green. I'm not sure what the name is, the exact name. It's got that sparkly green finish. It's got the 1.1 stub, which is my favorite number 8 Asvine nib. And where are they these days? Fountain Pleasure. Really, really nice. Yeah, so didn't make it, but would have made it had price been one of the primary considerations. Last but not least, and that I wanted to revisit, is this little pen. This little pen this big pen, has been giving me a lot of pleasure. Now, some of you might say, well, wait a minute, that's just a Jinao 9019 with a heart, that nib, I forget what they call it, heartbeat nib, I guess they call it. And I got to tell you that it's a lacquered pen, and I'm going to be featuring lacquered Chinese pens in a video soon. I'm waiting for several of them to come in before I do it. This lacquered finish on it just gives me, it makes the pen so much richer in terms of writing experience. And with that Yamabudo, ink, it's just a, again, a pen that you gravitate to. This is one of them. The number 8 nib is just fabulous. And, you've got that huge, oh, it's running out. I'm going to have to fill it. Huge converter. It takes a lot of ink. One of the pens that and this is a medium, writes like a broad. One of the pens that I gravitate to, that did not make my list. But sometimes, you have preconceived biases against Jinhao because Jinhao may not have that same flair as some of the other brands. But I really, really enjoy this pen. If you can get your hands on a lacquered version of this 9019, I would recommend it. The feel of this pen is really, really nice. Even though this part isn't, coated, it's just putting this pen in your pen case and holding it. Very nice. It just gets me thinking that I should be getting a Namiki. Or maybe the Pilot Custom Marushi, the big one. Someday. And now the prices have gone up, so I regret not having bought it earlier. Anyway, those are kind of my pens revisited for this week, folks. I did want to come back. Thank you very much. You supported that video, by the way. It looked like it got several additional or more views than usual these days, because things are a little bit slower, I realized. But those are my pens revisited for this week. And we'll kind of clean all this up and come back in a minute. Be right back. Okay, so we're back with the next segment, which is what are my weapons for next week? I'm going to keep going with the Italian theme. We've done some Neapolitan pens, and I thought that this week I would do a bunch of pens that are not Neapolitan, but that are Italian. So it gets me to use some of these beautiful pens, which for some reason I rarely take out. So let me go to the overhead camera and show you what I've got. Okay, so here they are. There's a couple of Viscontis. I've got Tabalti in there. I've got Stipula. I've got Montegrappa. Got Radius. So let's take a look at how these pens, one by one. I'm going to change that up as well. The paper I'm using is Sterling Ink Koji paper, which again is, I think, probably going to be a finalist for the Tomoe River alternative. We shall see. Where is my clip? I'd like to button this down because for some reason the paper, okay, here we go. Okay, let's start with my Visconti first. Now, I'm not going to show you the Visconti Homo sapiens because that we see more often, but I'll show you some of the other Viscontis I have. Not all of them, but some of them. This is the Visconti Voyageur Kaleido. Very nice nib. Take a look at that. Beautiful. Decorative nib. Older style pen. So this is the Visconti Voyageur Kaleido. I believe they call it Yellow Dawn. By the way, the ink is Leonardo Officina Italiana Noce Moscato. Moscato. Just a very nice pen. Fine nib. 18 karat. Beautiful pen. Bought it at an auction. Extremely good price. Where's my next Visconti? Is this one. This is the Van Gogh. Again, very nice nib, but this is a steel nib. So this is a, well, I just ink these things. And sometimes I ink them without cleaning them, so it's not ideal. Visconti Van Gogh. As you can see, is it G-O-H or J-H-O? And this has a steel nib. And the ink is Hongdian brown. Really dark brown. Very nice pen. I don't know who says the Visconti's nibs are no good. Mine are. This is the Mirage. What do they call this pen? I always forget. But I think it's the Mirage Mythos Apollo. Again, this has a steel nib. And again, it's Hongdian brown. I think it's a Schmidt nib, ultimately. Some of these, not the gold Voyageur Kaleido, but some of the steel nibs, unfortunately, do have a tendency to, let me just put ink all over my fingers, have a tendency to dry up, which is unfortunate. Do I have another Visconti? No, I think that does the Visconti. Next is the Pineider Grande Bellezza with this quill nib. So this is the, whoop. Again, that's what happens when you Pineider Grande Bellezza. And it's got the, I think this is a fine quill nib. Very soft. It's not writing ideally because I just inked it over old crusty ink, which is not a great idea. I apologize. I should have never done that. It also doesn't do justice to the pen. Okay, let me just bring this back here. So that's Pineider. We're going to clean it up for the week, though. Otherwise, it just makes no sense. This is the Monte Grappa Fortuna, one of their, cheaper priced pens. Fortuna. It's got a medium steel nib. The ink, I think, is blackish green. Again from Hongdian. Notice that on this Koji paper, it's not as smooth as Crena, I can tell you. But we'll have a chance to review all of this in due course. A little more texture to this paper. So those of you like a little more texture on your paper, then it's ideal. Next, I have my two Tibaldis that I'd like to show you. This is the Tibaldi Bologna. Now, I think the Tibaldi make was eventually bought by Montegrappa, and I think they've discontinued. They don't make them anymore, which is too bad. Tibaldi Bologna. It's a great looking pen. Nice resin. This is a broad, again, a steel nib. And the ink, again, is Dieman. Is it Dieman blackish green? I forget now. I think so. Lots of texture. Hard to kind of, it's like it's not a smooth writing experience. The other Tibaldi is this N60. Very nice. So this is the Tibaldi N60. And this has again a broad steel nib. And the ink is Dieman. Sky blue. These Dieman inks are just fabulous. I recommend them, folks. Not overly expensive. Can be had on AliExpress or Amazon. Very nice. Tibaldi. Just a shame that they no longer make these pens, but you can pick them up on sale now that they don't make them anymore. Then I have one of my Stipula Etrurias. This is one among many Etrurias that I have. This is a steel nib stub Stipula, some of the best stubs on the market. This turquoise color. So Stipula Etruria. And this is Leonardo. It's got a 1.1 stub. Leonardo Noce Moscato. Here's the ink. The stub is, you know, I say 1.1, but it's actually a 0.9. Some of my favorite stubs are Stipula stubs. Oh, one exception to the non-Neapolitan is this Radius Settimo. It's in fact made by Leonardo, so you can consider it a Neapolitan-made pen, but Radius Settimo. And the green that's in here is the can never get it right. What's it called? No, Ink Forge. What am I talking about? Ink Forge Works. Great inks, by the way. Those were the inks I featured last week. And this is the green. What do they call it? The Ancient Ivy. It's Studio. Ancient Ivy. Really nice green. This is a number 6 steel. broad nib. Yo-wo. Nicely tuned Novo, Yo-wo, to boot. This is another Monte Grappa that I have, and this is the Monte Grappa Tarvisium. So, Monte Grappa Tarvisium. It's a number 6 steel. Is it a broad? Yes. Broad nib. Not sure who makes their nibs. Could be Bach. But this is not an in-house nib, that's for sure. Beautiful pen. Nice size. Beautiful resin. Again, tendency to dry up on you quickly, which is unfortunate. And last but not least is this little Peniter roller ball. Nice and smooth. This paper, I realize, is ideal for a rollerball, I can tell you. There's a little more tooth when it comes to the nibs. But there you have it. So, that does my weapons for this week. Here they are. Let me just squeeze that in a little bit so we can get them all in. There we go. Take a nice shot of that for my B-roll. Here you go, folks. Weapons for next week. I'm going to enjoy these pens. Very nice. I got to fix that Peniter there. I got to wash it out because I do want to, that quill nib, it's a lot of fun. It may not be perfect for everyday writing, but a lot of fun for doodling and stuff during the week. So there you have it. Those are my weapons. Okay, so we're back with the last segment, which is YouTube review. I've got two YouTube reviews to mention to you. First of all, earlier on in the recap, I did mention that PenVenture has this video review or pen review of the Gravitas new VAC 2.0. If you're interested in that pen and you'd like to know more about all the novelties in that 2.0 version, well, Gravitas is always a great product, and PenVenture goes through it in detail. I think the filling system is that Kraken filling system. They've made some modifications to the pen itself to make it a little more performing, and quality-wise, they've made that nib a little bit more special. So all of that information, if you're interested, will be in that review. Secondly, I have a review. I like the gentleman. I appreciate what he does. He appears to be very, very knowledgeable. Dawn of Pens goes through a comparison of the silver-colored version and the gold-colored version or plated version of the Majon Flex Nib and wonders whether or not there is an actual difference. Now, we saw earlier on in the recap that there was kind of a little bit of difference even between two gold versions or gold-plated versions. One appeared to be a little more flexible or a little more loosey-goosey, if you will, than the other. I know my own experience tells me that for some reason the silver-plated are always more flexible than the gold. I've seen that in particular with kind of Canwright or Osprey. I think it was Osprey, and I think they get their nibs done by Canwright anyway. Osprey or Canwright, but more particularly with Fountain Pen Revolution. My Ultra Flex nib, silver-plated one, is much more flexible than my gold-plated one. And we're not talking about gold, the gold flex. We're talking about steel nibs that are plated either gold or silver. So if you're interested and wondering, take a look at that video, and it may provide some necessary information. In terms of my own review or my own channel, well, we had my recap of last week. Of course, that's always can be consumed at any times, and I'm working on that index. Too many things to do these days. Too many pens, paper, and inks that have come in, and I've got to do reviews for each of them. But eventually, I'm going to post somewhere or make available an index of all these recaps, so that you could have information on particular products that are tucked away in the recap, but and you can't see and you can't search for in the YouTube search engine. But in addition to that, I had some very, very fine things said about the top 10 Chinese pens. And as many of you said, you should do more of these. And yes, it's in the works. Given how slow the market is, we're going to try to introduce other stuff to make things interesting. But I've got a bunch of pens that have come in, and a much more that are coming in. So stay tuned for that. So thank you for your viewership of that video. It did really well. And yes, there's some controversy. People have different opinions. Some people hated some pens that I mentioned, or just, for example, the 930 as we discussed. But having said that, that's a lot. It's all about having fun. It's all about having therapy, sharing ideas, which is what it's all about. As far as next week is concerned, it's a big mystery. I've got the comparison of the 146, 149 Mont Blanc and their clones video that's out there and that needs to be published. I've got my series on the Pelican M series, going from M200 all the way to the M1000 that I wanted also to publish. But now that I have all these pens coming in, I'm working on several videos, including the Lotus Titan that you just saw earlier during the pen haul. That is a beautiful pen. Right now, it's in my head. I got to ink that pen. I got to write with that beautiful, monstrous nib. I'm wondering what it's all going to be about. So that's probably next on my list. And a pen had just arrived literally minutes before I was recording this section of the recap. The door rang. I opened and I found another gem. It's a Chinese pen that I really want to show you. So it's going to be a toss-up. We're going to try to get as many reviews possible done this weekend. Golf is kind of put on the back burner because it's raining here in Montreal. So we've been golfed out, so to speak. So it gives me more time on the weekend to work on some of the videos. So there you have it, folks. That's the weekly recap. I hope you enjoyed that. Please enjoy your pens, your ink, and your paper, and we shall see you sometime soon. Take care. Bye now.